Let's go to Sarah with an H in Dallas, Texas. What's up, Sarah?
Hi, Dr. John.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We are having a party. That's not true. We're not having a party at all. We're hanging out. We're working. We're working, having fun. So what's up?
I love it. So I am, little backstory, I'm 36 years old and going on 37 this summer and single. Have had a pretty horrible dating experience the past few years and have been thinking more recently in the past year or so about how I do want a family and taking the age into consideration and just my history, what with dating, that it could possibly be something that I would want to do or kind of end up doing on my own in terms of having a child. And I've been looking into fertility options and potentially considering a sperm donor. And now really just looking at all the questions that come along with that, both for myself and how do I personally deal with that? How do I deal with questions that would come up if I do go this route? And then also, if I did go that route and had a child, what that looks like for the child and how to talk about that with a young kid. Is it even smart to have a child without a father? So I just have a lot of questions and things to come up to consider.
I'm just gonna throw a light softball at you and see. Good gosh, this is a lot. Okay, real quick, walk me through what happened in your dating thing. What was so bad about that? And there's a reason why I'm asking that question. We'll circle back to it. But what happened that was terrible in your dating life?
So I had kind of a traumatic first dating situation about 8 years ago, and I've been in therapy.
Were you assaulted?
I started, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Man. So that happened 8 years ago, and you were in your late 20s, and that has rippled through every relationship or attempted relationship since.
Exactly.
Okay. What about before then?
Before then, it wasn't as horrible. I had a handful of good dating experiences, a few mid-long-term relationships that ended. They obviously didn't work out, but there was respect involved and mutual respect and understanding.
Just normal dating relationships. They were fine. They ended in breakups, but just was what it was, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the front end of this call, I'm going to let you know that I'm not an expert here, and I've got some experience. I had a super close friend, and she had 2 extraordinary kids via sperm donor, and so that's my personal experience here. I do have some broader conversations I want to have with you, and I want you to know that I am intentionally trying to walk alongside you. So if I say something the wrong way, or if I say something that comes across like I'm against you, please hear me say that's not what I'm trying to do. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my first red flag here is how hard it was for you to get right to the point and say, I'm thinking about having a kid with a sperm donor. And the reason that's a red flag for me is you sound hurt. And anytime somebody makes a truly life-altering, forever-altering decision out of hurt, it usually comes with systemic challenges, both in the present and down the road. And so the first thing I think is important for you to do is to exhale for a minute. And this is going to be brutal and hard, but you have to grieve the picture of what you thought your life at 37 was going to look like, because it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get really, really specific with that grief. I thought I would have 3 kids by now. I thought I'd be some highfalutin lawyer in downtown Dallas, and I thought I'd married some guy who was Had most of his hair at least, for crying out loud, right? I think getting really specific. I thought we'd live in this neighborhood. I wanted to be here. I think really specific about that grief. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be hurting in different areas, and your body and your brain are going to continue to be solving for that picture. And there's going to continue to be a gap between reality and what your body's trying to solve for. And so you're going to stuff a bunch of stuff down in that gap, potentially a new child or a new picture of family without fully grieving what isn't. And the challenge, you've heard me say this on this show a lot, is the hardest thing about new stuff, new adventures, new boyfriends, new husbands, new homes, new kids, new whatever, is that you go with you. And a new kid isn't going to take away hurt. You hear what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I do.
And I know that's hard to hear out loud. And so I'm trying to say it in the most, I'm saying it with you, right? Like I'm on your side of the booth here at the bar, okay? But it won't fill that hole. What type of trauma healing have you done over the last 8 years? You said you've been in and out of counseling?
I just started therapy going on 1.5 years ago.
Okay. How's that going?
It's been going well. In the beginning, we used the EMDR technique.
Yep.
And I'd say probably over the past 3 months, I feel like I've hit a little bit of, maybe like a little bit of a wall where I just get a sense that I'm talking about the same things and coming to a point where I feel like I'm repeating the same things.
Yep.
And
Are you ready to be done with that story?
Yeah.
It's still really close. And what I mean by that is when I just mentioned it a second ago, your body took off on you again, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's real close to the surface. And so that tells me for the last 18 months, you've talked about it a lot, and you've done some hacks and some techniques, and EMDR is incredible. But the next layer below that is a choice to, I'm not going to give this person any more access to my life anymore. And so I'm going to start working at that level. And why that's hard is your body says, no, we have to keep this thing top of mind so this hurt never happens again. And you have to go into therapy and say, okay, I'm ready to be done with this story. Let's get there. Tired of talking about it. What are the action steps I can take? You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's scary as bloody hell, right?
Yeah. And I like to have answers, and I feel like I don't know how to get there.
Yeah. It may be time to see a new counselor. And that sucks because that means you have to tell the whole story over again. You got to go through all the stuff again. But letting somebody who's a world-class therapist in your community, letting them know, hey, here's where I've been, and I'm ready to take the next step and be done with this. And not that you're ever going to be done with it, but I want to be able to remember what happened and not cry and not have that be the top of mind. I want to be able to remember what happened and not all of a sudden my hands are sopping wet and my heart's racing on me. I want to be able to tell somebody what happened because I'm going to meet somebody. I'm going to tell that person, hey, this happened one time, or I'm going to drive through that neighborhood and my body's going to start screaming on me. That's what healing looks like. Not that you forget, not that you're still not pissed off, not that all that. But it means that your body goes, oh, no, we're okay now. We weren't then, but we're okay now. That's what we're aiming for. Okay? So that's an aside here. Let's get back to this question you asked me. The way I've seen it done, and I got to say, like, she's a close family friend, and she's a brilliant scholar, and I didn't call her before here, this call, so I don't want to use her name here, but here's how I saw her approach it. And her kids were incredible. They played with my kids. They were awesome. She was real open with them. I mean, it was as open could be. I chose you. I went to a place and I chose you. And was definitely challenges with only having one parent in the house. I mean, being a single parent is tough, and all the data will bridge that out. And so I think that's a separate phone call for me and you to have someday. But yeah, it's hard. Being a single parent is really hard. It just is. Both financially, both emotionally, both psychologically, both just having some people in your life to help carry that load. It's hard. It's millions and millions of people do it, and millions do it well, right? But it's hard. But man, she just was pretty direct. Her kids knew that they came from a donor and they had some info on them. Here's what's happened over the last decade is technology has improved something dramatic. And now the conversation is people starting to meet up on Facebook groups. Hey, did you have donor XYZ ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4? And now the ethical issues are popping up because kids, young people who are now growing up to be teenagers and young adults, and even adults are able to bypass the original donor facility and find each other. And they're finding they have many, many, many half-brothers and half-sisters. And what do I do with that? And do I owe them money? Or am I supposed to meet with them? Do they come to my family reunions? And now there's just a broader, messier, much more complex situation than a closed-loop system where I had a sperm donor, nobody knows who. That's in a file folder somewhere, and this is just my new life. It just opens it up to a web, a complex web, okay? Like with DNA, genetic testing, and all those kind of things. Have you thought about egg embryo adoption?
No, I haven't looked so much into that.
Okay. That's another just thing to think about. Couples who are going through IVF will freeze a certain number of eggs, fertilized eggs, and then all of a sudden they'll have twins, and then they'll go again, they'll have twins, they'll have 4 kids, and there's still 4 or 5 fertilized embryos out there. And so there's a process now where people are beginning to adopt fertilized embryos. So you go through the whole process. The challenge there is half of it isn't yours, genetically speaking, right? You still go through the whole pregnancy process. So all I have to say is there's a bunch of options if you want to go down that road. I would meet with somebody who's been down that road. Have you talked to somebody has gotten pregnant by a donor?
I haven't.
Okay.
I have 2 friends that have friends, so I'm kind of in the early stages.
Love it.
And the further down the road I got, I would definitely want to talk to them. But
I love it. What's your hang up on it? What are you nervous about?
I think for me, it's more about the child and them going through life with questions of, who, why they were chosen like this, who their father is, do they ever find him? Do they find half brothers and sisters, those sorts of things, and what kind of psychological impact that would have on.
I've seen
a
movement in the adoption world towards more open adoptions because we're getting less and less such thing as a closed adoption. Because the technology is allowing people to find each other. So I think down the road, yes, there will be the ability for your child to find donor father, donor dad. There will be an ability to find half siblings all over planet Earth. Like that will be built into the system. What I can't do with any sort of integrity is speak to I don't have any data. I don't know of any data on the psychological the psychological well-being of kids we're just on this technology is just relatively, we're just a couple generations into this technology. And so I don't have any data on that. I think your best bet would be to sit down and talk with people who have experienced it, have walked through it. What is their experience with their kids? What are the hard questions their kids ask? And by the way, all kids ask hard questions. All of them do. And there is I've read a little bit about, but not enough to be statistically sure of myself about kids who have been adopted have this, what they call an original heartache, that question that haunts them. What was so bad about me that my parents didn't keep me? And one of the things I've heard over and over from folks who've adopted is they're continually having that conversation. You don't understand. I chose you, right? And so they're continually closing that loop. And some kids do great, and some kids struggle with that. I think, that's just kind of part of the deal. That's just part of living in a screwed up world, right? A hard world. But that'd be my recommendation, to sit down and have those hard conversations. I can't answer that question for you on the psychological state of kids and whatnot. I'm more concerned on this call with your well-being right now. And you don't sound like you're okay. And you can tell me I'm wrong. Be like, Delony, I'm fine. I'm doing great.
No, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Okay. All right. I say this all the time, and Sarah, I hope you'll trust me. You are worth being well. And you're worth going to sleep, and you're worth thinking about your past without your heart rate taking off on you. And you're worth being loved recklessly, all those things. And I hate that somebody hurt you. And I hope if your dream is to become a mom, I hope that happens for you. And I hope it happens in the way that you have a picture of what that's going to look like and that you're able to fulfill that picture. And I hope you'll do the hard work of having hard conversations with people who are trying to become parents in non-traditional ways, because that wisdom there is going to be invaluable. Will you call somebody new?
I will.
For you? Not for me, but for you?
I will.
You promise?
I promise.
Can I tell you that you're one of the bravest people I've talked to in a long time?
Thank you.
And when you have a little baby, I want you to send me a photo, okay?
I will.
And I also want you to reach back out and you either email, you can, you're not supposed to slide into my DMs, right? I don't think you're supposed to do that. Yeah. Just send me a direct message on the internets. But let me know that you called somebody, a new counselor, okay?
I will.
You will?
I will today.
Oh,
yes.
You're so brave. Thank you for being strong. Thank you.